Last year I reviewed a portable projector which I bought my daughter for Christmas. After which I was contacted by another company called Wemax, which asked if I'd review theirs. And here it is, the Wemax Go Advanced 300. And the questions are, is it any good? Is it any better than the Anker Nebula solar projector I bought my daughter? And other than giving one to a teenager so they can go and lock themselves in a darkened room and watch movies till they turn 18, who else actually needs one of these things? I've never quite understood the fascination people seem to have with unboxing films. I'm not interested in the box. I want to know what's in it. So let's not waste any time. And look at that! This thing is tiny. Give or take, it's about half the size and weight of the Anker Nebula solar projector that I bought my daughter. But it still feels very solidly made. On the front, the lens here sits behind a sliding cover which also switches it on and off. On the back, you've got an HDMI port to plug your computer or a TV game into, you've got a USB-A port, a headphone jack and a USB-C port for power. And that compares to the Anker Nebula Solar, which only has an HDMI and a USB-A. So it's the Wemax Go Advanced in the lead. Let's go and see how they compare picture-wise. For the purposes of this demonstration, I've set the two projectors up in a spare bedroom here, one on top of each other, projecting a 40-inch picture onto a sandy-coloured wall. And the room's quite bright. Now I wonder if you can tell which of the two pictures is coming from which projector. I'd say there's not an awful lot in it. The one on the left is a little bit brighter and it's a tad sharper too, particularly if you look at the text in the top right hand corner. The picture's slightly warmer too. But really, as with all projectors, they both look a little bit washed out when the lights are on. A bit like me in many ways. Anyway, let's try with the lights out. There we go, that's a little bit better. And now I'll close the curtains. Yeah, that's much more like it. Now there's not much in it, but I'd say the picture on the left is a bit brighter and a bit sharper. The one on the right also has a slightly green cast to it, whereas if anything, the one on the left is a bit redder, a bit warmer. Anyway, if you hadn't guessed already, the one on the right is the Anker Nebula Solar, and the one on the left is the Wemax Go Advanced 300. I'm not going to say very much about the operating systems on these things. I have to say I preferred the Wemax on the left because it's nice and simple and uncluttered. All you do is press the launcher button on the top and up come your apps on the right. But it does have a couple of foibles. When I first used the launcher, I thought, Aptoid TV? That sounds a bit niche. I think I'll use the Get Apps link to download Netflix instead. And sure enough, there it is. But confusingly, there are two Netflix apps and neither of them worked. Turns out you have to download the Netflix app via that Aptoid TV thing. Anyway, whilst I was there, I scrolled through to see what other apps are on offer. And look, all sorts of family-friendly stuff. Mundo Kids, Lego TV, Disney Kids, and what's this with a smiling box of popcorn? Huh? Is it just me, or does anyone else think that's just wrong on so many levels? I mean, does anyone turn to a porn channel and think, I know, I'll just go and get some popcorn? Another minor detail, if you ever have to use the keyboard, you'll see that the Shift key is helpfully labelled in both English and Chinese. But if you press it, the Shift lock key changes entirely into Chinese. I assume that means Shift lock, but for all I know, it could mean Taiwan is ours. Anyway, let's see how well this thing projects a big picture. That's now projecting at about 110 inches, maybe a little bit less than that. But as you can see, it is looking that much more washed out at that size. So what happens if I turn the lights off? There we go. That's a little bit better. And now shut the curtains. And again, that's much better. Actually, I have to say, that's really, it is impressive. Almost time to get the popcorn out. Now, one other thing I found better about the Wemax Go Advanced was its Keystone correction. That's the way it corrects the image when you project from somewhere off-center. Here I've got both projectors running. The Wemax Go is the one that looks reasonably rectangular, whilst the Nebula Solar is skewed to the right. That's because the Wemax does all the correction, both vertical and horizontal, automatically, whilst the Solar only does the vertical automatically and you have to adjust the horizontal axis manually. Lastly, a quick comparison of the sound coming out of these two boxes. First the Wemax, and it's quite tinny. Now the Solar, and you should be able to hear that it's got more bass to it.
Those delivering crafty solutions. In the end, the question is, can we reach a world that isn't based
And now back to the Wemax.
burning stuff?
So there we have it. In a side-by-side comparison with Anker's Nebula Solar, it's the Wemax Go Advanced 300 which wins hands down. It's smaller, it's lighter, and the picture's brighter when it's plugged into mains power. It's got more ports, the operating system is simpler and more intuitive, and the Keystone correction is better. In fact, the only thing it gets beaten on is sound quality, which is pretty tinny compared to the Solar. But look, the Solar isn't going to win any awards either, and at least the Wemax Go Advanced has an audio out, so you can plug it into an external speaker and avoid the sound lag that you often get when you connect to a Bluetooth speaker. Now, the only other thing perhaps worth mentioning is that the power supply for this thing has a US plug. So if you live anywhere else, you'll need to buy an adapter, like this one I bought for a couple of quid off Amazon, or another one of these power supplies. So overall, I really like this thing. It's a great product. But the question is, who needs one, other than teenagers who use them for movie nights or to project Fortnite or some other PlayStation game onto the big screen? The problem is that it costs just shy of $1,000. So if my daughter suddenly took one of these out of her bag, I'd be looking nervously around the house to see what she'd taken down to the pawnbrokers. So who else would make regular use of a projector like this? Well, I racked my brains for a very long time, and I could only think of two groups of people who would use a projector and really benefit from the portability. The first was the obvious one. Business people who go out and about giving presentations, particularly when they have to fly to the meeting, at which point this small form factor is a real advantage. The only other people I think might want one of these would be caravanners who've got limited space for a TV and can project onto the side of their slowly moving traffic jam. Except that doesn't really work. I mean, a caravana couldn't afford to spend $1,000 on a projector. If they could, they wouldn't be in a caravan, they'd be tucked up in a nice warm hotel somewhere. So there we have it. This really is a fantastic piece of engineering, and the good news, especially if you're an international travelling caravan salesman, is that Wemax has given me a discount code which will give you 50% off. The code is ARLO5FF for Foxtrot. With the discount, it'll still be more than I'd want to spend on a present for a teenager, but perhaps now starting to come within reach of caravan owners. So if you know anyone with a caravan, you might like to share this with them. Otherwise, till the next time, I've been Arlo Guthrie, and now I'm off to go and watch a movie. Bye-bye.